This case isn't just getting bigger, it's exposing a pattern that goes back decades. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Over the past several days, a well-known celebrity magazine has been publishing a series of highly inaccurate reports. These stories have been misleading and confusing, and honestly, they've caused a major headache for me and for others who are following this case closely.
Why?
Because what they're reporting simply isn't true. And then suddenly, this same outlet is the first to announce an official statement from the family. That's exactly how I know they are intentionally putting out false information to twist the story. They care more about keeping a connection with this family than about reporting the truth. And the family will only give comments to outlets that portray them in a favorable light. That magazine has become nothing more than a celebrity public relations machine. That's really all they are. Now they've landed the first comment from the family. So over the last couple of years, I've learned you can't trust that outlet at all. They care more about their access to famous people than they do about facts. Some of the stories they've misrepresented recently include the claim that Kendra was taken to a private location with her children. That is false. Kendra was actually taken to Joanna Duggar's home in Fayetteville, specifically the home Joanna shares with Austin Forsythe. She was staying there. But the truth is, Child Protective Services absolutely did remove her children. That was confirmed the day after it happened. Then today, they published an article suggesting Joseph is missing and that the Bay County Sheriff's Office is refusing to comment because he was transferred on Friday. That feels like the family is trying to get the sheriff's office to respond to media requests because they want to know where Joseph is. But they're not getting that information, and there's a good reason for it. Nobody is told where an inmate is during a transfer for security purposes, so escapes don't happen. Transferring someone from one state to another is usually done by a private inmate transport company. They pick up multiple inmates from an area and drop them off at different locations. Depending on logistics, it could take days or even weeks for him to reach Florida. Once he arrives, he won't get phone access until after he's been booked there. So the sheriff is protecting security by not telling anyone his location. If they did, people might try to find him and help him escape. That's just common sense. So he is in transit. His Vine link status says he was transferred and is currently in transfer. Josh Duggar was transferred from Arkansas to Texas back in the summer of 2022. When that happened, it took about a week for him to show up in the federal prison system's records. That is completely normal. During transfer, phone privileges are shut off entirely. That way, inmates can't communicate with the outside world or arrange an escape. It's for security. Right now, the family is trying to redirect a lot of information about Kendra and her case because they want everyone to believe she is innocent. Here's what their statement says. They're heartbroken over this entire situation, and right now they're focused on loving their family and helping Kendra and her children during this difficult time. That's referring to Joseph's wife, Kendra, who has 4 kids. They say they are praying for the victim. They ask for privacy and appreciate kind words and prayers from so many. Notice there is nothing about justice. Just prayers for the victim. They want you to believe that Kendra and her children are being helped by them. That's the message they want out there, that they are a loving family helping their daughter-in-law with her kids. But Kendra has her own entire family. If she wanted to do the right thing, she could cut contact with the family and actually do what's best for her children. But they don't have her kids, and they can't help her children. So that statement is just smoke. If they think helping Kendra with her legal defense is helping her kids, maybe. But where were they to help her kids when all of this was happening? Where were they to help Josh's kids when he was doing what he did? Where were they to help their own daughters when those daughters were victims of their brother? They don't help children. They harm children. That's how you know that Celebrity Magazine is officially misleading the public. The family is feeding them information and giving them directions to go. It's disgusting because all it does is make the situation look more complicated than it actually is. And it's not complicated at all. It's very straightforward. By the way, that same magazine has not reported that there is a no-contact order in place as a condition of Kendra's release on bail. Amy Duggar was right when she said the phone call between Joseph and Kendra where they talked about the Bible was a public relations strategy to soften the impact and make everything look faith-based. Talking about prayer and scripture means nothing if there's no real action and no consequences for what you've done. And the family saying they're praying for the victim. What does that actually do? Nothing. It doesn't help with therapy, trauma, or recovery. In fact, through their own sources, they've told others that this is just the enemy attacking them and that it's a witch hunt. But publicly, they say, "Oh, we're praying for her." Last time I checked, it's not this family's responsibility to take care of Kendra. She is 27 years old, an adult. This question keeps coming up, and I've talked about it many times, but I want to be extremely clear. When it comes to Kendra and Joseph's investigation and arrests, many outlets keep reporting that this is separate from Joseph's charges in Florida. That is both yes and no. The investigation that was opened in Arkansas was opened against both of them specifically because of his crimes in Florida. In Arkansas, under the law, anytime someone confesses to or is accused of this type of crime, a secondary investigation is launched immediately. It involves Child Protective Services, State Patrol, and local police. This joint effort runs parallel investigations on both the civil side and the criminal side. That secondary investigation is where they start interviewing Kendra, other witnesses, extended family, and other people in the household. They may also interview other children Joseph was around. What they're looking for is not just whether Joseph did something, but what other people around him knew and whether they failed to report it. Under Arkansas law, if Kendra knew Joseph had done this and she stayed with him, exposing her children to him, and did nothing to protect them, that is a crime. If he told other people who were mandated reporters and they didn't report him, that is also a crime. If family members knew what he had done and still allowed their children around him without protection, that too is a crime. In Arkansas, willingly exposing your child to a convicted offender is a misdemeanor called child endangerment. Under that statute, which both of them are charged under, second degree includes knowingly exposing your child to someone who has committed a serious crime against a child. Kendra is currently charged with false imprisonment and also with child endangerment in the second degree. The family has put out a two-part narrative about Kendra. First, that she is very sick and couldn't take care of her kids, so we should feel sorry for her because Joseph wasn't helping. Second, that this investigation has nothing to do with Joseph and is just a small, isolated issue. That is not the truth. This is just the beginning. If investigators learn that Kendra knew more about Joseph's actions, they will start looking at whether she was involved. Unfortunately, in cases like this, if a mother knew what her partner had done, sometimes the mothers are involved as well. You often see couples charged together and mothers charged because the father was offending and they did nothing to stop it. Beyond that, the children need to be interviewed, and investigators will be looking for other possible victims if Joseph has any. This is a legal requirement. It's not optional. Until determinations are made about the full scope of the case, what Kendra knew, whether others were impacted, and whether additional crimes happened in the home, the charges can be upgraded. We are still very early in this process. The child endangerment and false imprisonment charges are a legal tool to remove children from a situation where the father has confessed and the mother at best knew about it days in advance and didn't leave him. To give you more context, Radar Online spoke with a lawyer named Jamie Wright, who is a political commentator and attorney. He explained that other adults in the family will likely be questioned by Child Protective Services and police to find out if anyone else was aware of what was happening in the home. Especially given that Josh Duggar also harmed his 4 sisters as a teenager and is currently serving time after being caught with illegal material. Wright also explained that when multiple allegations of harm involving minors occur within one family, law enforcement is required to investigate based on the family relationships. That doesn't automatically mean anyone else is guilty or a victim, but it does mean authorities expand the scope of the investigation. He said that Child Protective Services and law enforcement will scrutinize the environment, supervisory actions, previous knowledge, and whether adults had a duty to report their suspicions to authorities, especially if they are mandated reporters. Generally speaking, investigators will examine who knew what, when they knew it, and whether the adult took any action to protect the child. Additionally, they will look for additional victims or witnesses who haven't come forward yet. Since there are both accusations of child welfare violations and illegal behavior, this is a multi-layered investigation that looks at criminal liability and parental ability to provide a safe environment. So by charging them criminally, the law has already stated that they are not fit to be with their children right now based on the current charges. That doesn't mean it can't change, but when people talk about reunification, that is a very hypothetical discussion because we don't yet know the full facts of what will come out. The family is going to do everything they can to put out misinformation and cause confusion. This is exactly what Jim Bob Duggar has done before. If you watched Shiny Happy People, you saw emails between Jill Duggar and the public relations people Jim Bob hired after Josh's scandal broke. One of their strategies was to flood the zone with positive stories, which creates misdirection and buries the negative ones. So if you can put out articles, audio, or videos with misleading headlines and work together with a celebrity magazine and a public relations strategist named Chad Gallagher, you create confusion for the general public who don't follow the story closely and go to tabloids for the truth. This is not a public relations situation. This is a criminal investigation. But the family is treating it like a public relations crisis. If you've watched any of my coverage about other celebrity cases, a lot of it has to do with how public relations manipulates the public. That Celebrity magazine is a critical part of how many famous people control public opinion. What the family isn't telling you is that they have a long history of interfering with and not cooperating in these types of investigations. For 25 to 30 years, from the first time they learned about what Josh did to his sisters until today, there has been a cover-up of what has been going on in their home. They have obstructed investigations. The only reason they went to police back in 2005 or 2006, and the reason the children had to undergo forensic interviews, was because someone else reported them. Someone who knew what had happened made that report. They did not report themselves. They didn't bring their children in on their own. Someone else had to do it. Now, they are trying to hide Kendra away. Their statement sounds a lot like when Michelle used to say she was protecting children. They claim they are helping Kendra and her children during this difficult time. But I don't know how they can help her children when they don't even have them. If they can keep putting out statements saying she's in a private place hiding with the kids, when we know that's not true, and when that Celebrity magazine willingly omits the fact that there is a no-contact order between Kendra and her children because of her criminal case, that's a problem. That magazine is willingly ignoring this. Every other outlet has reported on the no-contact order. Even US Weekly has reported it. But that magazine has not said once that Kendra has a no-contact order. There have been a lot of questions about that order, because it is a condition of her release on bail. Someone on social media and on a discussion forum tried to say that the document I shared with the public is forged. I share those documents for transparency. I don't have to show you every receipt I get from the courts, but I share them so you can see what they actually are. That document came directly from the clerk of the court in Elm Springs. US Weekly reported on it. TMZ reported on it. Multiple outlets, including local news, reported on it. So, I'm not the only one who obtained it. There was confusion because the date on the document references a standing order from January 2025. A standing order on release conditions simply means that as of January 1st, 2025, all people charged with certain offenses have these standard and required conditions. It lists every offense that requires a no-contact order under the law. Anything that says "so ordered" is a standing order. That does not mean the date is wrong. It means it applies to every situation on every release document. This is a small court. When they processed her release, they had her sign a handwritten form. They didn't even include the bail amount, but I obtained the warrant and the bail conditions and how much she paid. She and the officer dated and signed it on March 20th. Underneath it says "so ordered," referencing January 2025. It's very important to understand what standing orders are when you look at court records. It doesn't mean documents are forged. But that Celebrity magazine has not reported that she has a no-contact order. They haven't. They're pushing the narrative that Kendra's charges are completely unrelated to Joseph's and entirely separate. But those charges wouldn't exist if Joseph hadn't confessed. So you could call them separate, but they are directly connected. And they are one of the only outlets not reporting that the children were removed. On March 21st, 2026, US Weekly quoted a source connected to the family saying that Kendra was arrested and her children were taken. That source was almost certainly Jim Bob Duggar. But with that other magazine, it's all misdirection and confusion. They are intentionally putting out mixed messages to confuse everyone. And if you don't pay close attention, if you don't follow the case and look at the actual documents and understand the legal process, you might just think the family is a happy group doing the right thing. But it's time for mainstream media, especially these celebrity outlets, to start treating criminals like criminals and stop treating celebrities who commit serious crimes like celebrities. In my view, someone who commits a crime this severe against a child loses their right to be treated like a celebrity. TLC and Discovery have already said they don't deserve a platform. You can still find their content on YouTube, and some people say you can buy it on Amazon, but that's only as long as their contract allows those sales through Discovery and TLC. At some point, I assume those products will no longer be available. The streaming platforms they control have already removed the shows. Their program was canceled in 2021. Jim Bob hasn't been on television in 5 years. These are not current reality stars. They're former reality stars, but they're still being treated like celebrities when they shouldn't be. This is a serious case involving a child and another son from this family. Now that you've heard from a lawyer about what typically happens, the investigation will be wide-ranging because this is the second son involved. Authorities will look much deeper than just false imprisonment and child endangerment. Once everything is said and done, this will have been just the tip of the iceberg, and the family's attempts to deflect will become much more obvious. I say this as someone who has covered this family for almost 10 years and knows how they operate. They focus all their attention on public relations to confuse and misdirect. What I also find interesting is that there is no statement from them about the actual crime or any acknowledgement that they stand against such actions. It just says they are heartbroken. Jim Bob and Michelle don't think this is a big deal. They don't. They don't believe what their sons have done is wrong. To them, it's just another sin they can get through and get over with prayer. And here's more evidence that Celebrity Magazine is trying to create doubt about whether the Florida case will even move forward. The Washington County Sheriff's Office told that magazine that Joseph is no longer in their custody as of Friday, March 27th. Obviously, you can check Vine link yourself, and it says he was transferred to another facility. Joseph was being held awaiting extradition to Florida after being charged. He is not yet listed in the custody of the Bay County Sheriff's Office. Charges have not yet been formally filed by prosecutors in that county, and the agency declined to comment when asked if Joseph had been extradited to their facility following his release from Arkansas. But here's what they didn't do. They didn't check Vine link, which clearly says transferred. Being transferred is not the same as being released. They're trying to create a level of doubt, suggesting that charges might not be brought against him because it's been a week or more since his arrest. They claim he was released on Friday. He wasn't. He was transferred, and they say he hasn't been charged there yet. But documents from prosecutors will not be filed until he has his first hearing in court. That's how it works in Bay County. Bay County already has a case number for him. He has an active case number. It just hasn't been unsealed yet. So right now, there is a case. When he goes to court for his arraignment, the case will be unsealed, and we will see a formal complaint. That complaint might contain more information than what was in the arrest affidavit, because they've had over a week now to learn more. But this headline makes it seem like no one knows where he is. That spurred other articles saying he's missing or that he was released. But if you go to Vine link, it says transferred. I've already explained how transfers work. They are usually done through private transportation. The facility learns about the transfer about 24 to 48 hours beforehand. The inmate may only find out 30 minutes before. As soon as they are picked up, their phone privileges are completely removed. The logistics aren't simple. It's not like someone from Florida just came to pick him up. This is an economical paid service that jails use to transfer inmates around the country. They aren't just picking up Joseph. They are picking up other people too. They have security measures and requirements to follow. Everything is kept completely confidential during that period. Once he arrives and is booked, then we will know he is there. So that magazine wants us to believe Kendra has her kids when she doesn't. They blatantly ignore the no-contact order that exists. And now they want to act surprised that the sheriff's office won't tell them where Joseph is during a transfer. These are not serious journalists. This is an outlet doing public relations work for the family. And every other media outlet that just repeats what this one says is not doing their job. The message the family wants you to have is this: we are the only ones who can take care of the kids. We are the only ones who can protect Kendra. She is a grown adult, but we will stand by her and her children and help them. But they won't. And Joseph is missing. And since he hasn't shown up in Florida yet, maybe he won't even be charged. Maybe this was just a witch hunt and a hoax. As long as they can keep pushing that narrative until they can't anymore, until it becomes clear they're not going to win, they will keep spreading these lies. So please be careful what you read and what you see. This family is very skilled with public relations. They have an expensive, paid public relations person who does this for a living. They are masters at crisis management. What are your thoughts on all of this? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.